Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So nice to be with you tonight. Tonight we are welcoming Shabbat, and we are on the eve of a young man's bar mitzvah, and I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate the family ahead of time. Mazel tov to you, Ari, and we'll invite Ari to up front to light Shabbat candles. We turn to page 2. So, Ari. Here, let me do this.
There we go. You like candles? Okay, it's underneath. There we go. All right, it's a trick matches.
They're not really so tricky. It's just like
there. Go for it.
you light the
Yeah,
candles, then you
candles
say
and then
blessing.
say blessing. Get some oomph. You got this. There we go. All right.
V'tivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Nice job. We will continue welcoming Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharetz, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Continuing Kabbalat Shabbat, welcoming Shabbat 14, Shiru Ladonai.
שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, מסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, מסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, בכל העמים נפלאותיו. כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ. שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, מסרו מיום ליום ישועתו.
And from Psalm 99 on page 17, the bottom, the last part of the Hebrew, Romamu.
רוממו, רוממו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו, להדום רגליו קדוש הוא. רוממו, רוממו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו, להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. רוממו, רוממו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו, להר קודשו. רוממו, רוממו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו, להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
And on page 20 is Lecha Dodi, the peak of the Kabbalat Shabbat. We welcome in the Shabbat presence. We'll sing together paragraphs 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we get to 9, we rise, we turn to the door, and we welcome in Shabbat.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם לסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה רוב צהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Before you sit down, you're already ready, you know. Please take a moment to wish one another Shabbat Shalom, maybe move across the room, introduce
Stole your
yourself
book.
to someone
Is this yours, Sidor? Right,
that you
sorry.
don't know.
It's
we
one of
take-
my bad habits. Just
Oh.
always check that if I've stolen your book.
I take forks. I take serving forks. That's my bad.
Yeah.
Sandy's perfume is making me like clog up my.
Whose
like,
is it?
clog-
Last week I was definitely a little lackluster. I was running on fumes, so I do have a little more today. But yeah.
This is page 22.
Mizmor Shir.
This is page 23. Page 22 of Mizmor Shir.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בחינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
Turn now to Chetzi Kadesh on page 26. This will end Kabbalat Shabbat and then ease us right into the rest of the evening service.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא יברח חירותיה וימליך מלכותיה, בחייכון ויום איכון ובחי לכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך ואת פר ואת רומם, ואת נשא ואת הדר ואת עלה ואת הלל, שמע לקדשה. ברכו לילה בין כה בחטא ושירתו, תוש וחטא ונחמתה, דמירן ועלמה, ואמרו אמן.
Please rise as you are able for Baruch, page 28.
Yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam chaed. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam chaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, u'v'tvuna meshana itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'misader et hakochavim, b'mishmarotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golei or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המריב ערבים.
Continue on page 32, the first 6 lines together. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever.
כי הם חיינו, לאורך ימינו, בהם נגע יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. Invite Ari up to lead us in Ve'ahavta.
הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובאכלך בדרך ושוכבך וקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו התותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים אליהם Ani Adonai Elohem, Asher Hotzeti Etam me'eretz Mitzrayim, V'yom lachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohem.
Adonai Elohim emet. Yasher koach, bud.
On the top of page 39, we read together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Micha Mochas on page 40.
Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh Torah tehilot osef eleh Torah tehilot osef eleh malchutecha ra'u banecha חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זלי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד יאי די די יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די יאי די 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 יאי די 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 ונאמר כי בלע אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
On page 43, in the middle of the page, you read together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us soft evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
ברוך אתה, אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו. ועל ירושלים שלום. ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו ועל ירושלים שלום. ברוך אתה, אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל.
Continue on page 253 with Misha Berach, singing the first paragraph together. We'll pause to share the names of the members of our community, our family, our friends who are in need of healing, body or spirit, and we'll continue on with the second paragraph. Someone with that last name too. Not him.
מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We hold in our hearts for healing body and spirit of Ellen Apple, Julie Arnheim, Peggy Boone, Alex Botkin, Jimmy Broff, Chuck Davis, Eileen Davis, Ed Mandel, Joanne Mandel DeWitt, William Scott Fleming, Kate Can, Naum Kaplan, Al Camper, Gary Kinkella, Paige Lang, Sally Littman, Laura Marshak, Hal Mendlowitz, Stephen Nidus, Bud Roth, Richard David Rothman, Cheryl Sachs Dowling, Stephen Schimmel, Benjamin F. Siegel, Adam Scheffler, Jonathan Wind, Kayla Wright, James J.H.E., Hinda Sarah Bat Chana Pearl, Chaya Bela Bat Shana Fega, Yermiatia Shulamit Bat Miriam, Chava Gitel Bat Toiba, and Deborah Science. Other names for Misha Barak tonight? Continue with the second paragraph of Misha Barak.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Turn back to page 44 for Vashamra at the top of the page.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים, את הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
Come now to the tefillah on page 46. We'll sing this opening meditation together and then continue silently through the rest of the tefillah. Please rise as you're able.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agit tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. לפניך, יהיו לרצונים רפי, הגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. יהיו לרצונים רפי, הגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצונים רפי, הגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי.
How many of you have heard knew who Nikki Giovanni was? She was a poet. She died this past week at 81. She'd been described by some as a national treasure. I got my first Nikki Giovanni book right around the same time that it came out. It was around 1978. She was very involved civil rights movement, feminist movement. She was a real leader, but she was also kind of a gentle badass, if you'll excuse the expression. She really was she had a lot of really powerful things to say, but she said them in a way that wasn't too much, right? She wrote a poem. It's called Cotton Candy on a Rainy Day, and this part of it I thought made a lot of sense for this week's Torah reading, and she died this week, so. From Cotton Candy on a Rainy Day, she wrote, "We are consumed by people who sing the same old song, stay as sweet as you are, stay in my corner, or perhaps just a little bit longer. But whatever you don't do, don't change, baby. Baby, don't change. Something needs to change." I thought it was interesting because in this week's Torah portion, a lot of change happens. Change that needs to happen, but we don't necessarily know that until we're there. And sometimes that's true of our own lives. If someone's, right, change needs to happen. So first, context. Let me give you a little context of where we are. So our portion opens up with Jacob and his family, his entire family. He's got a couple of wives and a couple of concubines, and he has a lot of children, and he's leaving his father-in-law, Laban's house, and he's heading toward Edom, which is home, which is where he's told to go, and guess where his brother Esau lives, and Esau is his twin. He hasn't seen Esau in about 20 years. Last time he saw him wasn't good. We'll get there in a second. So Jacob he's worried about meeting Esau. He sends ahead messengers in hopes of, quote, gaining his brother's favor. And then Jacob learns that Esau, accompanied by 400 men, are on the way to meet him. So he panics because, as you might recall, when Jacob left home 20 years ago, he fled for his life. Esau was threatening to kill Jacob after Jacob tricked Esau first out of his birthright, and then he stole Esau's blessing from their father Isaac. And so naturally, Jacob was afraid of the reunion. He hadn't seen him. Last thing he heard was that his brother's going to kill him, and he shows up with 400 men. And so he sends ahead some gifts. But after that night, Jacob, after he sent aside the gifts, he instructed his servants to go ahead and leave, and he sent everyone, spaces in between to see how those would be received, and then he's left alone. He's left alone, and this story happens that most of you are familiar with, I think, that someone, maybe a divine being, not sure who, wrestles with him, Jacob, until the break of day. So there's this all-night wrestling. And when that being, this divine being or whoever it was, saw that it was impossible to win, the being touched Jacob's thigh and somehow injured and weakened him. And the being then gave Jacob the name Israel, which is translated usually to mean struggle with the divine, wrestling with God. Wrestling with God. Jacob then names the place where they are Peniel, which means face of God. So this is a panim, and El is God. So Peniel is the face of God. And he says, I have seen a divine being face to face, and I lived. So he names that place Peniel. As the sun rises, he makes his way across the river, and now he's limping on his wounded hip. The next day when the brothers meet, there is no anger. There's no violence. Rather, Esau falls on Jacob's neck, and the brothers weep. Now, I will say that there's a word for, he falls on his neck, and it says he kisses him, but the text in the Hebrew, there's dots over it, and it could mean he bit him, but whatever it is, we're supposed to, the rabbis who hate Esau would like you to believe it was a bite, but that doesn't make sense for the rest of the story. So it's, whatever it is, it's a very emotional embrace, right? Love and hate sometimes are pretty close. So, but there's this emotion, this tremendous, and the brothers both weep. And then, at first, Esau refuses all those gifts that Jacob had sent, telling him that he has more than enough wealth. But then Jacob insists, no, you should take it, which is very Middle Eastern. No, you should take the gifts. And then he says, Jacob says this, please do me the favor by accepting this gift, for to see your face is like seeing the face of God. So you should think, oh, I just heard that about a minute ago, right? Face of God, face of God. So hold that in your mind, and we're going to come back to that, because I think this is one of the most beautiful places in the Torah of like two things showing up that can teach us a lot. So I read an essay by Rabbi David Wolpe, and it's called, Why Didn't Esau Kill Jacob? And then he goes on to answer the question. So why didn't he kill him, right? I mean, he was angry, Tony. So the Rashbam from the 20th century points out that Jacob is known for running away. When he deceived his father and took the birthright, he ran, right? He ran, he went away. When he left Laban's house, he ran. Now Esau sees that Jacob has a limp, which means that he can no longer run. The evader, the trickster, is straightforward and present. When Esau sees Jacob's uneasy stride, he realizes this is a different person from the brother whom he swore to kill. So he doesn't, he recognizes there's this major change, and that changes his response, right? The next person that Rabbi Wolpe talks about is Benno Jacob, who is our own Dr. Walter Jacob's grandfather. He was a German rabbi at the beginning of the 20th century, and he teaches a different lesson regarding the impact of Jacob's lib. He says that when Esau had remembered Jacob as arrogant and entitled, which he had been. He was arrogant and entitled. And now the arrogant brother is gone, and in his place is an older, limping man who has been wounded by life. He's been wounded by life. Struck by the difference, Dr. Jacob teaches, Esau's heart changed. So he couldn't have that same feelings towards this older, limping man than this arrogant, entitled man, right? I mean, like, that makes sense. So you could feeling it's a different person he's facing, a different person in both cases. But then his final reason, Rabbi Wolpe's reason, comes from his own father, Rabbi Gerald Wolpe, and it should be no surprise that this was Rabbi Wolpe's favorite interpretation, because it was from his father. But it's interesting. Esau and Jacob were twins, right? They weren't identical for sure. We know that from the very beginning, but they were exactly the same age. For most ancient people, the world, no one had a mirror. No one had a mirror, right? And so you could never see what you looked like. But for the first time in decades, Esau is confronted by his twin, and they certainly must have looked somewhat alike. They looked like brothers. They're the same age. And Esau sees how Jacob has grown, and therefore recognize how old he too is. I don't know if you've had that experience of some of you, not you yet, but when you see someone that you went to high school with, and you're like, oh man, they look so old, and then you're like, that's what they're saying about me, right? So it's exactly that expression. Exactly that experience. He sees this older person walking towards him, but this is his brother. They're exactly the same age, his twin brother. And now, this is the part that I think is really interesting. Now he understands how much of his life has passed, and he has wasted in hatred, which is this amazing little twist that is, right? Like all this time has passed, this man doesn't look the same, we're old now, and all these years I spent angry and hateful. And he's like standing in front of a mirror and seeing everything that he has lost. I think it's a really beautiful commentary. I agree with Rabbi Wolpe, that's really nice. So this got me to think, what if we would ask ourselves to consider just how much time we waste on negative sentiments? Doesn't have to be hatred, but it could be. I mean, right? Maybe we're jealous. Maybe we're competitive. Maybe we derive pleasure from another person's misfortune. It's called schadenfreude. Maybe we have spite and possibly even hatred. We have negative feelings. What does that look like on our own faces? Can we see that on our own faces, or can we only see it on someone else's face, even if that person's not our twin? Can we recognize what hatred, what a life of hatred or jealousy or competition, whatever it is, can we recognize that on someone else's face and say, I wonder if you could see that on my face? I thought it was a pretty provocative question. Maybe if we did see all that negativity reflected on our faces or someone else's faces, we could realize how much of our own lives we've wasted with negative emotions. And we could recognize, as in the poem, that it's time to change. Something has to change. So when Jacob was newly humble, his newly acquired humility, and Esau, for whatever reason, has a different way of looking at his brother, now they both understand that deception, anger, and hatred need not, and they must not endure forever. And there's a way to move ahead. There's a way to move beyond that. Now, I just want to rewind a bit, because remember when I said about these beautiful names of the places and seeing the face of God? I just want to go back to that. It's easier if we have the text in front of us, but I think you'll get it anyway. So remember how Jacob named the place he wrestled with the divine being Peniel, right? Because it was there that he saw the face of God. Called it Peniel. And then remember how when Esau and Jacob reconcile, Jacob says, to see your face is to see the face of God. I think it's either the same place, or when they really see each other, they see the face of God. So it's either, right, it could not be, they have to be linked because they're the same name. So that place of reconciliation, that's the place of Peniel. That's the place we see God's face. So when you and I, when we see one another deeply, when we see the flaws, when we see the growth of someone else, we see the gifts of someone else, then it is truly like seeing the face of God. I don't think we need to wrestle with angels or beings, but we just have to look deeply at another person, and we can see all of that in them when we look. And it's like seeing the face of God. The Torah doesn't insist that we forgive. The story doesn't tell us that we need to forgive. There's no forgiveness. Jacob and Esau don't say to each other, we forgive each other. And then they don't even go off together. There's a part where Esau says, I'll walk with you, and I'll walk slow because you're limping. And Jacob's like, I'll catch up later. They never catch up. We don't necessarily have to spend our lives with someone who upsets us. But we also don't have to carry that anger and that hostility and the resentment and all of those things that we carry. Because that's exactly what happens with Jacob and Esau. And what does happen is somehow a peaceful coexistence and holiness, Peniel, the face of God. So my prayer then for this Shabbat is, would that individuals, ethnicities, religions, and nations could do the same, to see the face of God in one another. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We will continue along with Aleinu, page 282, and please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגאון עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Kaddish is on page 294. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and all those whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. This has been within 1 week of the death of Carol H. Albert, the cousin of our member Barbara Hepner, our member Lisa Kissler, and our member Gwen Miller. We also remember those who died within the last 30 days: Zelik Abo, the father of our member Steve Abo, Shirley Abriola, and Rabbi Jonathan Stein, the uncle of Josh Pollock. We observed the yard site this week of James B. Bachman, Jean Baker, Naomi Blaufeld, Bess Kallman, Beatrice Kahn, Ruth Eskovitz, Seymour Essner, Sophia H. Feinert, Walter Frank, Harvey Friedland, Beatrice Galanter, Dr. Pearl Gollin, Ellen Hirschberg, Bernard Kleiman, Esther Lehman, Fania Letichevsky, Abraham Littman, Eva Lundy, Hyman Mandel, Dorothy Mates, Leonard Morris, Lisa Morrison, Joseph Recht, Donald Schimmel, Shirley Schimmel, Norman Schlesinger, Eileen K. Waldman, Dorothy Weiss, Sherman Weiss, Herbert G. Wertheimer Jr., and Harry Yamron. Other names for Kash? Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, b'yamad yivrach ute, b'yamlich malchute, b'chayachon u'yomechon, chayei decho beit Yisrael, b'galav v'yizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mavarach le'olam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shmei d'kudashah berchu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tishbachata v'nechamata, damiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, huyaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated. In just a moment, we will be inviting Ari back to up front here to lead us in Kiddush, and we'll do Motzi. Our closing song will be Od Yavo, Shalom Aleinu, page 353. Couple of announcements. Our Kiddush is sponsored by Josh Hammerstein and Ann Williamson, who happen to be the parents of our bar mitzvah for tomorrow, Ari. So again, Mazel Tov. I wanted to just make sure that you've seen and that you're thinking about attending the program on Monday night. It's in honor of our beloved and really talented archivist, Martha Berg, who will be retiring this month. The program is called Stroll Through the Past, Stories from this is not right. It's called something like Stories from Erev Shalom. What's written here is not what it is, so I apologize for that. But it is about the stories that come from our archives, and it's about the history of Erev Shalom. The speaker will be Eric Lidji, who is the director of the Rao Jewish History Program and Archives. And so he's going to tell us some stories from our own past. And he's a wonderful storyteller, and Martha has been a wonderful, wonderful addition to our community, and we're sad to see her go, but she's been talking about retiring for a long time, and she finally is going to do it. So if you can come on Monday night, that would be great. we also are going to be honoring her at our service a week from tonight. At that service, that is also a service that the choir will be singing at, and we'll be honoring Martha as well. Other announcements?
20s and 30s Shabbat next Friday night at 7 p.m. If that applies to you, please join us for drinks and a short service, 7 till 9 in Aaron Court.
This is Andrew. He's our new sound person, so say hello to Andrew. Thank you so much. And as always, Don and Kendra Glauser and I are so happy to be with you. So Ari, come on up. Kiddush is on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ritzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ava v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'ma'aseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom tehila lamikra e kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshel be'ahava uvratzon. Hinhatanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Right, take a sip.
Take a sip of that.
Great chanting.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Page 353, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu.
Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, 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 aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.